Morning everyone, it's 6 a.m. It's time to get up and have some breakfast. And you're in luck because I'm gonna show you how to make the most amazing country farm fresh breakfast you've ever had in your life. Now the first thing you're gonna need when you're cooking breakfast is things to make breakfast with. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Everybody knows that. That's because it's your first meal of the day. Because if you don't eat your breakfast, you're gonna starve to death. You might live long enough to make it to noon to get lunch, in which case, lunch becomes your most important meal of the day. We have farm fresh eggs. See, no cracks. You wanna look for cracks. You wanna look for blood streaks. You wanna look for live chickens. So always a good idea to shake one first, just to make sure. Then you have your original breakfast sausages. Essential. If you don't have this, then you don't have that. And you don't have breakfast. In which case, you may as well just have a drink of water. Next thing we need, hash browns. I've prepped our deep fryer. We're gonna cook the hash browns inside the deep fryer. We remove the lid. This is where everybody needs to stand back a little bit. As you can see, I'm gonna be using a knife, which is an instrument for cutting plastic off of the hash browns. Okay. One knife. Always make sure you have one on hand. Okay, so now that we've unwrapped it, we're ready to move on to the next part. Look at these gorgeous fucking things. Now, I'm going to take 4 of these. And we're going to cook them for 5 minutes, approximately. Place them evenly and gingerly inside the basket. Then drop them in and put the lid back on before the grease begins to splatter. Very important that you have a set of tongs with which to retrieve the hash browns from the basket. Now we're gonna let that go for 5 minutes. Now in the meantime, while that's cooking, we're going to prep the rest of our breakfast. So you need a saucepan because today we're going to be cooking scrambled eggs. Now I know a lot of people use frying pans for them. That's bullshit. Don't ever do that again. After you watch this video, you will be cooking scrambled eggs my way. And then for the sausages, we're going to be cooking them in a traditional frying pan because that is the only way with which to cook sausages. Don't mix the two up. Very important. You don't want to cook your sausages inside the saucepan and your scrambled eggs inside the frying pan. If you've done that, I want you to stop what you're doing and I want you to put everything away, clean up, and then start again. Now, you always want to cook your eggs last because they cook the fastest. At the same time, you're cooking your toast. So now we go back to our knife and we open up the sausages. Another utensil that you need for the scrambled eggs is the rubber, slightly edged ladle. Okay, and I'm going to show you why it's very important that you only use this type of utensil for making your scrambled eggs. We're going to put this over here beside the saucepan so that we are reminded to use that for the scrambled eggs. For the sausages, we can use a standard spatula. That's okay. You can even use a fork if you want to. I'm gonna stick to the spatula because it's a tried, tested, and true method. We're gonna put it over here beside the frying pan so that we don't forget to use it. Now let's check the timer for the hash browns. I'd say we got about 30 seconds left, and then they should be nice, golden brown, and ready to eat. For the hash browns, we're going to take them out of the deep fryer now, and we're going to place them into a holding dish. We don't want to present them on the plate just yet. We're going to place them in the dish and put a cover over them just to keep them nice and warm and safe. Remove the lid. And just look at those lovely golden brown monuments to our hunger. And then use your tongs. Remember the tongs? Oh, those are stuck together. One fell on the floor, that's okay. We observed the 10-second rule here in the kitchen. Even though it landed pretty much near the cat dish, and there's probably a lot of hair and other things down there, it's okay because we haven't reached the 10-second mark yet. Only one hair hanging off of that. It's still good. So like I said, we're going to put this over here, and then we're going to find something to cover it with. There we go. Those will stay safe. Now, let's move on to the sausages. Now, the next thing you have to do is ensure that you've turned the burner on, because if you don't, then the sausages are just gonna sit there flaccid in the bottom of the frying pan and not cook. If I sound irritated by that, it's because I've seen my students make that mistake so many times. It's like they put the food in there and then it just sits there and it doesn't cook. And I come over and they're like, "Chef, how come it's not cooking?" And it just 9 times out of 10, it's obvious. It's the burner and it wasn't turned on. So let's let that warm up. See, you can feel that warming up already. Yes. Next thing you want to do is you want to put a little bit of margarine inside of the frying pan, and that will help cook and envelop the sausages in a very nice flavorful way. Any devotees of sausages will know that you always put a little parquet into the frying pan. Scrape and in. Now the heat will begin to melt the butter, and then you can take it and swish around a little bit. And then if you want to swish around a little more, just to spread it around. You can see there's one piece of butter not melted yet, but that's okay. It will melt. There's no methodology to putting the sausages into the frying pan. You just take them with your clean washed hands and place them in. As you can see, this is a very good pattern with which to cook the sausages. Everything is nicely utilized in the base of the frying pan. And you can use your spatula that I told you about before to slowly turn them as they cook. Now these won't take a long time to cook. Just a few minutes. See, you can see they're browning already. See, sausages cook usually pretty fast because it's just a mishmash of meat that they scraped off the kill floor at the meat plant. And then they take them and they put them in those little bags and squeeze them into these. As you can see, there's no real consistency to the meat that's inside the sausage roll. It's all different stuff. You could have horse meat, pig meat, moose meat, dog meat, cat meat, anything in there, and anything goes when it comes to sausages, because sausages actually mean mystery meat. That's where it comes from. So they seem to be cooking just right. So now we're at the optimal time where we can continue with the breakfast prepping and move on to the eggs. Now, as previously stated, we have checked for any imperfections, no cracks, no blood streaks, no live chickens, and we are ready to cook. So same drill as before, we're going to be introducing parquet into the saucepan. Now that's very important. Dig it in. Now you want a generous amount. We're going to be cooking approximately 6 eggs, scrambling them. So this is the amount that you want inside the saucepan. Let it drop in. There we go. And we're gonna let that melt up a little bit. Very important that all of the butter is melted inside the saucepan before we introduce the eggs. You can move it around. Now, very important also, do not put anything else inside the saucepan. A lot of people like to put milk or water or any other type of liquid in there to help further the cooking of the eggs. Believe me, you do not need it. All you need is the butter. So I would say that's almost completely melted. Now we're going to introduce the eggs. In. You take your rubber, slightly curved ladle and you just don't whisk it. Just kind of break up the yolk a little bit. And we just keep doing that. We're going to adjust the heat a little more. And while we're doing that, letting this settle a little bit, we're going to check on the sausages. I would say they're just about finished. Now, the eggs here have had a chance to settle a little bit. It's going to begin solidifying. So continue pulling in from the corners, or from the sides, sorry. A saucepan does not have corners. Please note that. And then you want to go off the heat for a sec and give it a good turn. And then onto the heat and give it a good turn. And then let it sit for a second, and then off the heat. And turn, and then onto the heat. Lastly, we're going to make toast. Now, I've seen a lot of people make this mistake when they're making toast. Very important, you don't make the same mistakes. What you want to do is remove the toast, or the bread, remove the bread from the bag, and place it into the toaster. And then activate. Very, very important that you do that, otherwise you will not have toast. That is another mistake that I see being made a lot in kitchens around the world when I'm doing consulting. Off the heat. And these are ready for serving. See, look how nice and fluffy they are. Look at that. Now just study the consistency. What I want you to do is take a screenshot of this and study the consistency of the egg itself. Now, because you cannot taste it through video, we all know that. But if you study this and then you follow my exact instructions in your own kitchen using a rubber slightly curved ladle, there is absolutely no reason in the world why your scrambled eggs will not look like that and taste just as delicious. It might take you a few times. That's okay. That's what practice is for. Let's check the toast. I would say it's almost done. And you know it's cooking when the red light is on inside the toaster. That's a pretty fair indicator. So our toast is now finished its cooking sequence and has indicated that to us by ejecting the toast upwards. Now let's remove those from the device. And now we're going to begin our presentation. Before that, what you need is a butter knife. And they call it the butter knife because you use it to scrape margarine or butter, you can call it a margarine knife, from the container and onto the toast. Make sure you spread it evenly on the toast. You don't want to leave any part bare. Any bare part on the toast can ruin the breakfast. Let's do this again. And then cut, cut, and then place your toast around that. Now we're gonna grab our sausages next. And for that, we are going to use our tongs that we used from the deep fryer. And we're going to place them like that. This breakfast will contain 4 sausages. Then our hash browns. This breakfast will contain 1 hash brown. Then you will add, as the final touch, your scrambled eggs. There we go. Now, I ask you once again, does that not look like the best breakfast you have ever seen in your life? Now, when prepping the serving tray, always use a nice tea towel that has bumblebees and some sunflowers, because that signifies morning, and the visual of that will make the person feel so good about themselves when they're eating your breakfast. Even if you fuck it up and they don't like the breakfast, they're gonna like it anyways because you've enveloped them with the visuals of morning, bees and sunflowers and all the things that would make you feel good. You know, like if you lived on a farm and you woke up and you could hear the stinging nettle outside and the birds chirping and the sun coming through the windows, drenching the side of the wall. That is what makes you feel good about yourself. That and one fucking good breakfast. Good morning, my love!
Aw, you made me breakfast in bed.
I made it just the way you like it. Eggs du jour. Ooh. We got the hash browns over here. We have the sausages over here. We have the toast lining the outside. And in the middle, as the centerpiece, we have the eggs du jour. Enjoy. Where's my tip? All right, so today I am gonna show you the most amazing breakfast you'll ever lay your fucking eyes on. Oh, that sucks.